At my sister's wedding, the photographer kept saying, "Just immediate family for this one." After an hour, I realized I wasn't in a single photo. I quietly walked out without saying goodbye. 2 days later, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. "Hello everyone, my name is Emily Carter. I'm 31 years old, and I realized I wasn't part of my own family halfway through my sister's wedding. Not because anyone said it directly, not because someone asked me to leave, because after nearly an hour, I hadn't appeared in a single photograph." The photographer smiled politely. "Immediate family only." Again, I quietly stepped aside. Again, eventually, I stopped waiting to be called back. Instead, I slipped out through the side entrance. Nobody stopped me. Nobody even noticed. 2 days later, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Looking back, I suppose I should have expected it. Being invisible had always been my role. My older sister, Sophia, was 18 months older than me. She was beautiful, confident, the kind of person who could walk into a room and immediately become everyone's favorite. I was quieter. I preferred reading, gardening, long walks with my camera. Mom used to laugh. "Sophia lights up a room." Then she'd smile at me. "And Emily keeps to herself." Neither statement was cruel, but over time, one child became celebrated, the other became forgotten. If Sophia won an award, Dad invited the whole family over. When I earned a full academic scholarship, Mom hugged me, then reminded me to help Sophia study for one of her classes. At every family gathering, the spotlight naturally drifted toward my sister. Eventually, I stopped trying to compete. I built a life I genuinely loved. I became a wildlife photographer. Most of my work happened far away from crowded cities. National parks, wildlife preserves, quiet forests, where no one cared who received the most attention. Animals didn't compare people. Neither did mountains. I found peace there. Whenever relatives asked what I did, Mom usually answered for me. Emily travels a lot, as though that explained everything. Sophia became an event planner. Ironically, she built beautiful celebrations for other people. She was incredibly good at it. When she got engaged to Adam, I was genuinely happy for her. Adam was kind, respectful. He treated everyone with warmth, including me. 6 months before the wedding, Sophia asked if I'd photograph part of the rehearsal dinner. I smiled. "I'd rather just be your sister that day." She hugged me. "I understand." I thought everything was fine. The wedding day arrived. The ceremony was beautiful. Sunlight streamed through stained glass windows. Everyone cried when Sophia walked down the aisle. Even me. Afterward, guests gathered outside for formal photographs. The photographer smiled. Parents and the bride. I stepped into place. He politely looked at me. "Oh, just immediate family for this one." I blinked. "I am immediate family." He looked confused, then checked his list. "I'm sorry, I was told." He stopped himself. Mom quickly interrupted. "It's okay, Emily. We'll get plenty later." I smiled politely. "Of course." I stepped aside. A few minutes later, the photographer called, parents, siblings, and spouses. I walked over again. He looked uncomfortable. "I'm so sorry. Just the names on my list." I frowned. "What list?" He quietly showed me. Bride, groom, parents, grandparents, bridesmaids, groomsmen, flower girl, ring bearer. My name wasn't there. Not once. I quietly handed the clipboard back. "No worries." He looked genuinely embarrassed. "I'm really sorry. I don't make the schedule." I know. He wasn't the problem. The afternoon continued. More photos, more smiling, more laughter. Every time, I stood nearby, waiting. Nobody called my name. Eventually, even cousins started asking, "Aren't you getting in one?" I simply shrugged. "I'm sure later." But later never came. During cocktail hour, I walked over to Mom. Was my name accidentally left off? She looked surprised. "I don't know. You know how busy weddings are." Before I could answer, someone called her away. Dad was no different. "We'll figure it out." He never did. The reception began. Music filled the ballroom. People danced, laughed, celebrated. I watched the photographer moving from table to table, capturing families, friends, generations together. Everywhere I looked, people were making memories. Except me. Around 9 o'clock, the photographer approached me. He looked genuinely upset. "I owe you an apology." "For what?" I finally asked the wedding coordinator. "What did she say?" He hesitated. "She told me, your mother specifically requested that you not be included in the formal family portraits." My heart stopped. "What?" "I'm so sorry. I thought there'd been a misunderstanding." There wasn't. For several seconds, I couldn't breathe. Then I smiled. "Thank you for telling me." He lowered his camera. "I feel terrible." "You shouldn't. You were only following instructions." I quietly walked toward the side entrance. No tears, no argument, no goodbye. Outside, the cool evening air felt strangely peaceful. I sat in my car for almost 10 minutes, looking back at the beautifully lit reception hall. Then, I drove home. No one called that night. No one texted asking where I'd gone. The next morning, nothing. I went back to editing wildlife photographs for a client. Life slowly returned to normal. Until, 2 days later, at exactly 8:17 in the morning, my phone buzzed. Mom. I ignored it. Then Dad called. Then Sophia. Then my aunt. Then 3 cousins. Then the wedding photographer. By lunchtime, I had 28 missed calls, 43 text messages, and 2 voicemails. The final message came from Grandma. It simply said, "Emily, please answer your phone. They finally saw the wedding album." My hands froze above the screen. What did she mean? They finally saw it. Sometimes, people don't notice who's missing until they finally see the picture without them. As my phone continued ringing and the missed calls kept piling up, I realized someone had finally discovered that you can't erase one member of a family without leaving an empty space everyone else can eventually see. I stared at Grandma's text. They finally saw the wedding album. Before I could reply, my phone rang again. This time, it was Grandma herself. I answered. "Hi, Grandma." Her voice was gentle. "Sweetheart, can you come over?" I quietly asked, "Why is everyone calling me now?" She sighed, "Because they finally understand what they did." An hour later, I walked into Grandma's living room. Mom, Dad, Sophia, Adam, my aunts, even the wedding photographer. Everyone was there. The wedding album rested on the coffee table. No one spoke. Grandma looked at me. "Sit beside me." I did. She gently opened the album. The first pages were beautiful. Sophia getting ready, the ceremony, the vows, the kiss. Then came the family portraits. Page after page, bride and parents, bride and grandparents, bride and cousins, bride and friends, bride and bridesmaids, bride and co-workers. Not one photograph included me. Grandma slowly turned another page, then another, then another. Finally, she closed the album. "Do you all see it now?" Nobody answered. Dad quietly rubbed his eyes. I didn't notice. Grandma looked directly at him. "Exactly. You didn't notice your own daughter was missing." Mom burst into tears. "I thought she'd be in the candid photos." The photographer quietly spoke. "I followed the instructions I was given." He looked at me. I asked twice. I was told, "She doesn't need to be in the family portraits." Mom covered her face. I said that. The room fell silent. She looked at me through tears. "I thought, because you weren't in the wedding party, it would keep the schedule simpler." I smiled sadly. So everyone else was family. Except me. She couldn't answer. Sophia suddenly stood. I didn't know. The photographer looked at her. "You were standing beside me." She froze. I asked if you wanted one with your sister. You answered, "Maybe later." Tears immediately filled Sophia's eyes. I honestly thought we'd have time." I quietly replied, "We had an hour." Adam finally spoke. I asked where Emily was. "I remember. Someone told me she'd wandered off." He looked around the room. Nobody even went looking for her. No one denied it, because it was true. Grandma gently reached into the album. She removed one loose print. It was taken accidentally. I was standing alone in the background, watching everyone else smile. The photographer looked embarrassed. I almost deleted that one. Grandma smiled. "I'm glad you didn't." She placed it in the middle of the table. "I want everyone to look at this picture." Everyone did. You know what I see? Nobody answered. I see a daughter waiting to be invited by people who should never have made her wait. Mom started sobbing. Dad looked completely broken. "I failed you." I looked at him. "You didn't fail me in one day. It happened a little at a time. Birthday after birthday. Holiday after holiday. Achievement after achievement. This was just the first time. It happened on camera." No one could argue with that, because every page of the album proved it. Sophia slowly walked over to me. "I'm so sorry. I never wanted you to feel invisible." I smiled sadly. "But I did. For years." She nodded. "I know that now." Then she reached into her purse. She pulled out a small envelope. "I canceled something yesterday." I looked confused. "What?" The photographer was supposed to design a huge framed family portrait for our living room. She swallowed hard. I told him not to. The photographer nodded. Instead, he placed another package on the table. "I made this." He carefully unwrapped it. Inside was a collage, not of perfect poses, but candid moments. Me helping Sophia fix her veil. Me laughing with Grandma. Me hugging Dad before the ceremony. Me dancing with my little niece. Mom looked at it and cried even harder. I forgot to see what everyone else saw. Grandma smiled softly. "They saw a family. You only saw a schedule." Epilogue. 2 years have passed. That wedding album still exists, but it stays on a shelf, rarely opened. The framed collage hangs in its place instead, not because it erased the hurt, but because it reminded us what really mattered. Mom never again used the phrase, "We'll get one later." If someone is missing, she notices immediately. Dad calls every Sunday, not because he has to, because he wants to. Sophia and I became closer than we'd ever been. One afternoon, she quietly admitted, "I spent so many years being included. I never realized what it felt like to be left out." I smiled. "I'm glad you know now." As for the photographer, he sent me one final gift, a single framed photograph, the one where I was standing alone. On the back he wrote, "No one deserves to be the invisible member of their own family." It still sits on my bookshelf, not to remind me of the pain, but to remind me how important it is to make sure everyone feels they belong. My thoughts. Looking back, the wedding photographs didn't create the problem. They revealed it. Sometimes, life gives us a picture we don't want to see, not to shame us, but to give us the chance to become better than we were before. No one should have to ask to be included in their own family. And the people who truly love you won't just save you a place in the photograph. They'll make sure you never have to wonder whether you belong there in the first place.